Well, hello and welcome to this special program, all part of Agriculture Month. So we need to say to you, Happy Agriculture Month, pretty much into the celebrations. And I've got in with me four gentlemen who are all playing a very pivotal role in the life of rice. We're talking here about rice in this conversation. And I want to welcome Mr. Madan Lal Ramraj, Director General of the Ministry of Agriculture. Sitting next to him is Rabindra Prasad, Chairman of the Guyana Rice Exporters Millers Association. I've got next to me Dr. Mahendra Prasad, and he's a Chief Scientist and Plant Breeder, the Guyana Rice Development Board, and a longtime brother, and still in the field, pretty much, Dharam Kumar Siraj, Member of Parliament, General Secretary of the Guyana Rice Producers Association. All of you gentlemen, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right. We want to get right into the meat of this discussion, but before we do that, we will allow each of the panelists to have a few minutes on, what we're looking basically the future of rice. And so we want to talk to first the Director General of the Ministry of Agriculture, Mr. Madan Lal Ramraj. Primarily, probably about 5 minutes about the future of rice in his aspect where he sits as the Director General of the Ministry of Agriculture, and the future, his pitch. There you go.
Thank you very much, and thank the other members of the panel. I also want to express in this Agriculture Month, as we celebrate Agriculture Month, thanks to the farmers and all those stakeholders in the farming industries for their excellent performance that has allowed agriculture to be where it is today, the second largest contributor to the GDP in our country. So I definitely want to thank all those farmers and stakeholders. If we are to look at the trend and what has happened over the past 20 years, from 2000 to 2020, rice by itself has doubled in terms of production, from about 450,000 tons to about 1,049,000 tons. Similarly, with export in 2000 was 257,000 tons. Today, it is over 500,000 tons. The government see rice as and agriculture as a whole as one of the pillar of development. We must also recognize that our being here, our foreparents being here, is what brought agriculture to Guyana. And I think agriculture will be here to stay. I know our minister has been emphasizing over and over, we can have all the other natural resources, they will come and go, but agriculture is here to stay and will continue to form one of the pillars of economic development of our country, and more specifically in the rice industry.
Thank you very much. Well said, the Director General of the Ministry of Agriculture, Mr. Madan Lal Ramraj. We go next to the Chairman of the Guyana Rice Exporters and Millers Association, Mr. Rabindra Prasad, who's representing quite a large field of specialists. Welcome aboard, sir.
Thank you. I must say I'm happy to be part of this panel because I would like to share from the miller perspective what we see the future of rice should be and how we should start in gearing ourselves towards that. The way I see it is, the industry need a lot. I think might be the most challenging time because we're heading into an oil industry. And if you're looking at countries in the past, oil industry tends to be very negative towards agriculture. So I look forward for this discussion. It would be a very healthy discussion. And I must say that rice, as Mr. Ramraj has just said, right, is a success story because today we are at about 500,000 tons of export. And from the miller perspective, millers have been doing something really good for it to get to that point because, and if you get onto it, marketing is at its best if you take history into consideration.
Mhm.
So yes, we have a healthy time ahead.
Thank you very well, Chairman. We go next to the scientist that is sitting with us. And Doc, of course, has been around for a long time. In fact, he has been in rice. In fact, I'm sure you probably may want to speak of the varieties for a little later on and some of the things that have happened. But let's talk about the future of rice, Doc, if you can. And let's remind those that are joining us that he's a chief scientist and plant breeder at the Guyana Rice Development Board. Dr. Prasad.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here and to have this discussion with the distinct members and my respected seniors. As the Director General mentioned, we have seen over 1 million tons of rice being produced, and we are exporting more. Fundamentally, our yields have been increasing, our productivity has been increasing. We've been expanding a little land as we go ahead, but our productivity has been increasing. Maybe 15, 20 years back, our productivity was like 4 tons per hectare.
Mm-hmm.
And now our national average is 6 tons per hectare. So we are moving. Where we go in the future, I'm seeing that still we need to be around, and we can be around 7, 8 tons per hectare. That would put us in a good position of having more economic advantage for what we're doing. Basically, the farmers and the millers will get this spill off too. I would want to say that we're talking about 6 tons per hectare. A colleague will say, or someone will come off the blues and say, we should understand where we are positioned internationally. Even though we are a small country, someone talks about Australia is 10 tons per hectare. That's Australia alone. You see 2 other countries, maybe US and the next country at 9 tons. You see another 4 countries at 8 tons and another 4 countries at 7 tons. And you know, we are 6 tons after them. So we're in the 12th position in terms of productivity, which is a significant thing from where we came to where we are. But we need to craft ourselves, and for that purpose we're here, into a program that will deliver the 8 ton per hectare. Variety is one thing, but it has to be so many other things combined together for us to achieve that. And where we are in terms of what we produce in our sister country, Suriname, it's 4 ton per hectare. Colombia, we have significant research and development going. They're just 5 tons per hectare. Notwithstanding Brazil, in our context, it's basically superpower for rice. But if you ask the productivity, it's basically 7 tons per hectare. And my projection, and in fact GRDB projection, it's, I think in the next 5 years we should reach a national average of 7 ton per hectare. Give me 5 years, 10 seasons, that's 0.1 ton per season. Having everything played off very well. We can achieve that. And why I'll say we have the technology and the kind of support service in a way to do that. Farmers are already receiving, some farmers, better farmer, 7, 8 tons per hectare, and we have just seen a newer technology coming in which could possibly give 9 tons per hectare. Also, as we move ahead, achieving and productivity is one thing, but we have to get the system in place for us to sustain it. We can't be fluctuating. We go 6 tons per hectare now, and then we go back to 5, 6 tons. So the industry has to be resilient to able to withstand changes that's going to happen. Mm-hmm. Changes that we know of, we can calculate, and changes that we can't foresee at that point. And that's where the policymakers are very pivotal. They have to develop the framework with our assistance to provide a good environment for research and development, for the millers to operate, and that's it. I don't want to take all the time. I'll continue.
Well, I
going.
I did hear before we
Yeah.
got started, Doc, that you can spend pretty much a long time.
Oh.
You can based on your deliverables, what we've got.
Yeah, yes. Well, I'm just hitting the tip. So it is going to be a team effort
Okay.
for us to achieve that. And when we're going to be a national average of 7 tons per hectare, I foresee in the next 5 years, we will have farmers at 8 tons and 9 tons per hectare, which means convert to farmer language, we're talking about the national average being around 45 bags per acre, good farmers receiving 50, 60 bags per acre. Some farmers will tell you no, that they're having a few plots that giving that already. Variety is one. We'll have to get the development of our pest and disease management program kicked in very well. We have to carefully craft. We have paddy bug is one of the serious issues that farmers are facing. We have to get a program that will deliver, and that program will deliver. It's based on, I will also tell you, because we have also decided what we're going to do. Having the relevant support, we'll have to get a program. It will be integrated approach. It will have to be biological control and less of a pesticide. And if I just don't want to divert more. We have caused some of this to happen with ourselves. We basically, in my view, we have kind of disturbed the ecological balance in terms of the paddy walk. We've been chasing them a lot with chemicals. We have to find alternative means to repair so we can manage. The bog could live, we could live, and we could have healthy yields.
Go have it together.
Yes,
I want to pause a little bit there with Doc, because I want to bring in Dam Kumar Siraj. And so we've had the scientist giving his spin, and pretty much he's going to go a long time for us, because we're going to come back to him. We've had the millers, we've had from the government side the Director General. I want to go across to going down to the farmers now, the man that really deals with those on the ground. And Durham has been around for a long time, not only been around, but been actively involved in the work of the farmers and representing them too. So Durham, here is your chance to give your presentation.
You know, the farmers are the reason these guys have a job, you know, so they're quite important. And I must say, you know, that for our viewers out there, we are all advocates for observing all the protocols for COVID and all of that. So whilst we're not wearing a mask, we're observing safe distancing. So I want to take this opportunity to tell our viewers that you must continue observing the safe protocol, continue wearing your mask and all of that, especially when you're in a crowded room. If not, the next best thing, maintain your safe distancing and so on. It's an interesting topic for discussion, and I agree with what the gentlemen have said. You know, they're putting things in perspective from different angles and all of it, and that is why it's good and it's important. When you're having these kind of discussion, to have a combination of different persons, so you have the different perspective, the scientists, the millers, the policy makers, and of course a representative of the farming community. And if we look, you know, over the past 3 decades, I would say, you know, the average productivity was in the vicinity of 2.2 tons per hectare. Some farmers were actually getting 1.5 tons. And Blackbush Polar, for example, was one of the poorest productivity areas, cultivating about 18,000 acres, but the productivity was just about 1.5 tons per hectare. And from then to now, as Dakota outlined, we saw that Guyana, we did not only increase our acreage under cultivation, our hectares under cultivation, but we also did tremendously well in terms of our productivity. And that is attributed to a combination of factors. Among those, I would say, was the farmers' input and the level of agronomic practices that they've been doing in keeping with, in a partnership with the technical people, especially at the Rice Research Station. And I'm very proud of that period between 1992 to 2015, when a lot of emphasis was put into the sector itself, recognizing that it's, you know, agriculture is one of the best vehicles to address rural poverty and food security. And, you know, when you put the infrastructure in place, the services are maximized, then the farmers responded. And like Rajan said, you know, one of the key things is marketing, because you produce and you can't sell, well, then you go out of production. So you have to be very smart there, and whilst you can focus in terms of the production and productivity, at the end of the day, if you cannot sell it, then it won't make sense producing it. The other thing I liked, and I spoke about this in my budget presentation, was the resource course. And, you know, that is something that the government is very cognizant of because we've been talking about it and, you know, and it's right what Raja mentioned that, you know, many countries, when they discover oil, of course, you know, oil is losing its importance given renewables and given the fact that it's contributing to environmental issues. But the resource course is real and, you know, you're flooded with all this kind of money coming in and then our traditional sectors punished. Our neighbor to the west, a case in point, you know, they used to be very strong producers of rice. Now they cannot even produce enough for their local demands. And that, you know, we have been exporting quite an amount to them. So yes, we're going to address that because the future of rice cannot be assured if we fall victim to the resource course. It cannot be assured if we do not do smart marketing. It cannot be assured if the farmers are not in partnership with technology. And, you know, I'm happy to say that at least from what I see here, the farmers have been responding positively to these developments, and they're all part of, and they're very smart in their own way. That could tell you, you know, they challenge him. Some of the farmers have not gone to secondary school, but they challenge him with questions that are so astute in terms of plant breeding, in terms of insect pest and disease management, and all these kinds of issues. So we're there, and I'm very, very confident and very comfortable that we will achieve the targets that he's talking about. I mean, some farmers are doing it already, of 7 tons per hectare. So I think the industry is in good hands. The future is assured. We just have to get a few things right.
Okay, great. So we have broken the ice and we have allowed ourselves to get a little loose. Let's get into something that Doc said. And I want to come to Dharam Kumar, and I want to come to my brother here, the Miller, as it relates to paddy bugs. And this is interesting because these guys have been around for a long time. And so the scientists, Doc just said, that we have been chasing them for quite a while. I know this continues to be an issue, and Darren may want to jump in here, representing the farmers, as to new ways in which we can deal with them. You were talking about cohabiting, dealing with the bugs in a different way, because while they're negatives, they're also positives. And so let's see, Darren, if you can jump in here, your take on this particular issue.
I've been an advocate, and a lot of farmers support an integrated pest management strategy. And taking and using as a first preference management of the ecosystem, and where possible to promote biological control, and that saves the ecosystem, it saves the environment, it saves us from foreign exchange to bring in these chemicals, and at the end of it, it gives you a product that is safe for consumption. And you know, there are a lot of chemicals that have been banned. I recall a couple years ago, you know, there was a list of what they call the dirty dozen that have a lot of residual properties, right? You call them POPs, persistent organic pollutants. They stay in the environment for quite a long time. So the world has moved to banning all chemicals that have the ability to remain in the environment for a long time. For rice in particular, you know, it's never comforting to know that you'll have to use chemicals for any control. Early stage, it's not that difficult, but paddy bug does not come around in the early stage, and it comes around when the paddy, when your plants start producing, start bearing, and that is when you have to exercise control. And to my mind, we have to start this process from day one. And you know, cleanliness of the surrounding and so on is very crucial to the approach of an integrated pest management strategy that will see a reduction of the use of chemicals in the field to assure first the cost factor and then also the issue of the food security. So farmers have been there, and we have to learn to live with what we have. And you know, in 2013 going on to 2014, the Guyana Rice Development Board had allocated a sum of, I think, $100 million. They have established a specialized unit only to deal with paddy bug, because this pest has the potential to create havoc. In any one season, it can disseminate an entire crop, taking your loss down to up to 25–30%. When that happens, you lose billions of dollars. And we didn't see it, you know, or we saw it as a smart move to put aside $100 million, establish a specialized unit to go after management of the paddy bug in a targeted way. And I think we have to renew the effort to deal with this in partnership with our farmers, the other stakeholders, and of course in dealing with our ecosystem. Critical is to come up with a strategy that is friendly towards the ecosystem,
ecosystems.
and to ensure that, you know, we use less of our foreign exchange to go into the direction of chemical. The world is moving away from that.
Yes.
And I think with the technology out there, Guyana stands a very good chance of coming up with a strategy that can address this issue, whilst at the same time guaranteeing a safe product at the end of the line that consumers can be comfortable with.
Right. Virginia, you want to jump in here? Because even though the mill is coming at the bottom end, this too will be an issue
We're
for
at the
you.
top end.
The top end, the top
Yeah,
end.
no, I
Yes,
think the
it's
millers are
different.
on the top end, because if there isn't a demand, then there's
Yeah.
there's nothing left, right?
Right.
There is not even an industry, right? And there's some very important things to note at this point, right? Is that the milling population, right? The millers, right? When I came into this industry, there were like 70-something millers. Today, we're just down to less than 15, right? So the millers are shrinking, right? And it is, I don't think a lot of people paying attention to this, right? But what is happening is it is shrinking, but the millers are getting larger, and they're generating enough revenue so that they can market well, right? And the marketing is what is very important, right? And that is what's going to sustain the industry. But as I said earlier, right, I'm very concerned about the shift in our economy that is going to happen in the years to come, right? And I think at this point in time, we need to sit back and try to recollect and say that, okay, you know what? For us to be competitive maybe 15 years from now or 20 years from now, what do we need to do today, right? And what we need to do today is to take the assessment and understand what are the major items that is causing high cost of production. We need to bring our cost of production to a level that we can stay in the business, right? Millers, when the cost of production is high and you have to buy paddy at an expensive price, you're limited to only a few markets. But when you have a good cost of production, you can extend wider, right? And the industry can grow bigger. But if you're stuck with high cost of production, then you can only be limited to this much amount of production. And the cost of production, it goes back straight to that, right? You have to get high yield. But then there's other factors, right? Like I see the government take away the VAT on exports. That is very important, because I don't think exporters should carry those costs, right? One of the big costs that we're carrying too, like, is the cost to keep GRDB going, right? I don't feel that cost should be a miller's cost, right? It's taking away our competitiveness in the market. So those costs should be, okay, the government take those costs, right? And the millers stay free and should be able to go out there and sell very competitively.
And so that's
and
why
that
I'm
would
glad,
grow the industry.
Yeah, and I'm glad we're having this discussion, because it allows some of the issues to come to the fore, and for us to have an active say in it. We come to Director General on this particular issue raised by the miller.
It's so relevant that the theme for Agriculture Month is investing in agriculture for poverty reduction and sustainable development. The government is committed to create that kind of environment for development, for agricultural development and other forms of development. We recognize that with oil coming on board and other industry booming, that agriculture will continue to have an important part to play. Let me talk specifically about rice. As Mr. Siraj mentioned, in 2014 we set aside $100 million just for integrated pest management in respect of the paddy bog. That came out of a study whereby $8.8 billion were lost by a set of farmers in Essequibo in Region 2, right? Having said that, also in creating this kind of environment for development and for success, we recognize that there's a lot of infrastructure has to be put in place, meaning D&I. Dr. Mahendra made a comparative analysis in respect of the productivity over the years and the amount of
Yes.
land, the amount of land, it's not comparable to the amount of land. It means then that we were able to increase our productivity from where it was then to now.
To where we are now.
All of these were because, or came about because of the government investment in DNI structure, investment in human resource. In 2000, I don't think we had a doctor at the research station. I think it was run by the Indian government, people from the Indian government. Today, we have four doctors. We have persons with about 4 masters, and all our research technicians are first degree graduates. So it's a kind of human resource investment.
The investment.
It's kind of the DNI investment. And we know we are far away from what we want to be. Take for instance, we are aware that we have to be working in a climate smart situation. What do we do going forward? How do farmers adapt to, take for instance, what had happened at Danzig, right? The seawater coming in there. Are we going to left those land abundant? Is there a salt-tolerant variety that will come on board? Drying is a problem. Drying seed paddy across it. Government is aware that these are problems. Farm to market road is also a issue right now. So we and more so, as Dr. Mahendra said again, is a development fund that has to be set aside for research and development. These are crucial to the industry, and we have seen the pattern of growth just because of the research and extension, the money that has been put into that, the human resource development, and the DNI infrastructure. Let me just give you a reference. In the second week that we came into government, there was a huge cry in the MMA area, where the infrastructure was dilapidated, meaning farmers were crying out to get their paddy out of the field. The drainage was in a terrible condition. The roads were in a terrible condition. Look at it today. Today, I think the MMA area has been completed, the harvesting, and people are happy. So those are the kind of things that the government has to be cognizant and to ensure that these resources are put in place, especially in a climate smart environment. We also recognize that farmers are at a disadvantage in some instances, and what has to be pursued is a development institutional funding. How, by what mechanism you can assist them so that they can able to survive continuously, especially in the type of climate that we are facing now. So we must also be very thankful for the millers. They have been able to access market by themselves after the Venezuelan market, and they have done well. They should be commendable. So another area that may become very important is to look at to further the study of crop insurance. I know it came up some time ago. I think it's in 2013, 2014, and we'll have to continue to pursue that. So from a government point of view, we recognize we have seen the trend of growth. We want to ensure that rice continue to play a major part in the agriculture sector and for future development.
And I think that's a good point to bring our discussion to a close. But I want to give anyone just 2 minutes if there is. Darren Kumar, is there anything you want to pop in just before we
Yeah, definitely. Just briefly responding to some of the issues. And to say that, today our world's population is approaching about 8 billion people. Half that amount of people use rice as their staple, right? So you're talking, and population increases are projected to happen primarily in Asia and Africa. Now, those two continents consumes the most rice and will eat more rice. So we have our task here cut out for us in terms of addressing that anticipated increase in consumption of rice. And it's not without its reason, because rice has many advantages, right? It has a long shelf life. You know, there are different varieties can be grown to satisfy different consumption preferences. Like, for example, in Asia, you'll have the Japonica type, which is good for chopstick and all of that. In Europe and these parts, you'll have the Indica type that is more loose type of rice, and it looks good in the plate. They're extra long grain and all of that. So in terms of the consumption pattern, rice is assured, the future is assured for it. And we will do our best to satisfy that increase in demand for rice itself. At the end of it is the farmer. So whilst Mr. Rajendra Prasad will talk about cost and VAT and all of that, and the millers bearing it, that is a cost that is factored into the cost of production. That cost determines what they buy paddy for. So it's an industry cost, right? Because the farmers bear their share of it, as well as the millers and the different players, supermarkets and all of that. So at the end of the farmers are at the most disadvantageous position. And that is why it is important that we have a kind of policy framework that gives them some kind of comfort, and we have that competitive environment that gives them the best deal. And, you know, government, I think, should give support to the sector itself in terms of the marketing intelligence, in terms of extension, in terms of research, in terms of plant breeding to come up with new varieties. But more critical of all is the services of drainage and irrigation and farm-to-market routes. And I think we should use our newfound wealth, or supposedly newfound wealth in the oil sector. And that is why the trust of my contribution as a representative of the sector is to ensure that resources that we get now should be put in place for infrastructural development in our traditional sectors and our sectors that have a renewable base. Oil will come and it will go. When it goes, we got to ensure that Guyana is much better off for its coming and its going.
Gentlemen, thank you so much. This really has been an interesting conversation. One I know is going to continue long after this. I see Doc wanting to see something. Doc is saying, yes, give me a minute or two. Doc, you have 2 minutes.
2 minutes, okay. Thank you very much. Just have identified the pillar of better pest and management.
Yeah.
We're going to have a more robust program for agronomy to improve the agronomic practice for farmers, so they could actually achieve the potential of the technology that we are going to deliver. We also have a renewed extension activity to ensure that farmers are complying with the management practice that we are going to recommending. Monitoring the industry in terms of quality control, it's going to be heightened, and we're going to look at a more wider standard internationally. We're using the CARICOM standard. I would like to know that we are looking at a broad global standard for rice, because we're retrading maximum. So and overall, we would like to, on the marketing, that we're able to service our market, we're able to sustain our market, we don't lose market, and keep to access more market. And yes, Darun Kumar, we definitely need 100 million more tons of rice will be needed by 2030, and we definitely have a share. Most of those will have to go to Africa and so on, and we definitely have a share on the market, even though it is small. So our future looks good.
Okay. Gentlemen, thank you so much, but you have put me into some problems. We have long gone past the time allotted, but apologies to my director for production, and I know I'll be answering some questions, but it's a conversation we needed to have. Thank you so much. So we want to thank the Director General of the Ministry of Agriculture, Madan Lal Ramraj, for stopping by and talking to us on this very important topic. The Chairman, the Guyana Rice Exporters Millers Association, Rajendra Prasad, thank you very much, for coming and talking to us about it and representing well to the millers. The scientist, the man in the lab who is here with us, we've got Dr. Mahendra Prasad, and the Chief Scientist and Plant Breeder, And of course, he will give us all of the reasons why he believes things are going to go well. And thank you so much for the work you're doing as well. And Dharam Kumar Siraj for representing the farming community and working along with all of these important players in the system to make it work. Thank you so much for being a part of the program. This has been a program produced by the Guyana Rice Producers Association and of course the Guyana Rice Development Board. And thank you so much the Ministry of Agriculture too, all stopping by to be a part of it. I'm Mark Watson until our next program. Thank you so much and goodbye.